echt keinen Plan nicht, Bruder. Ich weiß wirklich gar nicht. Ich hab echt keinen Plan nicht. Ich weiß wirklich gar nicht. Nee, Mann, ich hab echt keinen Plan nicht, Bruder. Ich weiß wirklich gar nicht. Ich hab echt keinen Plan nicht. Ich weiß wirklich gar nicht. Nee, Mann, ich hab keinen Plan nicht, Bruder. Ich weiß wirklich gar nicht. Ich hab echt keinen Plan nicht.
So I'm gonna make 2 more videos today. One of them is not going to be uploaded on TikTok. I'm gonna upload it on my YouTube, but I'm gonna read from 100 Years of Lynching for this video. I'm getting back into this book. I'm going to try to read from Mississippi Black Papers as well, and a lot of the online books I have on lynchings and stuff like that. Some of them cost quite a bit of money, and I'm surprised I found the PDFs. But yeah, I'm gonna read 3 stories from this book. And a lot of these stories are hard to stomach. A lot of these stories leave you with your fist curled up. I'm not trying to start something. I know I always get a comment saying, why are you reading these stories? It's the past. We don't need to provoke feelings. But this, spiritually, I feel like is part of my job, is to bring out these people's stories. You've never heard the story of this black dude, this black veteran that wore his uniform around his racist town, and they didn't like it, and they told him to take it off, and he said no. And next thing you know, he's found in the woods, lynched. What about the story of poor, mentally ill, a black dude with learning disabilities that couldn't speak right, couldn't talk right, couldn't write well at all? He had clearly mental issues, and he had to write a note to a white person, and he didn't write it properly, and because of it, well. And a lot of stories like this are just very blood curdling. Like, it's just really upsetting, and I understand why people get upset about it. But again, these stories need to be brought out. What I call my series is on YouTube. When I read from these, I'll read in a lot longer. I'll read way more stories. I'll make the videos like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, of way more stories involved. And I call it the innocent blood crieth out from the earth, like based off the scripture. Innocent people's blood was shed and is crying out from the earth. These people want their stories told, not just sitting in an archive, newspaper archive somewhere, just hoping somebody reads it. Or maybe these could be your ancestors, maybe these could be your family, you don't even know. So I'm going to bring these stories out either way, no matter how uncomfortable they make me, how uncomfortable they make you. So get over it. And when I say get over it, you know the type of people that comment and say I shouldn't bring these books out and these stories out, then I'm telling you to get over it. All right, we're going to start with the Chicago Defender, April 5th, 1919. Negro veteran lynched for refusing to doff uniform. Blakely, Georgia, April 4th. When Private William Little, a Negro soldier returning from the war, arrived at the railroad station here several weeks ago, he was encountered by a band of whites. The whites ordered him to doff his uniform, or take off his army uniform, and walk home in his underwear. Okay. Several other whites prevailed upon the hoodlums to leave Little alone, and he was permitted to walk home unmolested. Now, let's get to the second part. Little continued to wear his uniform over the next few weeks, as he had no other clothing. Anonymous notes were sent to him, warning him not to wear his army uniform too long and advising him to leave town if he wished to sport around in khaki. During the time, the army uniform was khaki slacks and the khaki hat. You can go see vintage photos of it. Go look it up yourself. Let's see. Little ignored the notes. Yesterday, Private Little was found dead on the outskirts of the city, apparently beaten by a mob. He was wearing his army uniform. Wow. Knoxville, East Tennessee News, May 1st, 1919. Illiterate Negro lynched for writing an improper note. Shreveport, Louisiana, April 29th. At Vicksburg, Shreveport, and Pacific train was held up by an armed mob about 5 miles from Monroe, Louisiana today. And George Holden, a Negro, accused of writing an insulting note to a white woman named Onley Elliott, was taken from the train and shot to death. Holden was taken from a stretcher in the baggage car. He had been wounded in 2 previous attempts to lynch him. So this dude has already survived 2 attempted lynchings. Holden was being sent to Shreveport for safekeeping. He was shot in the leg Monday night by an unidentified person shortly after the woman received the insulting note. Later, he was beaten into insensibility. When the local sheriff heard of this, he placed Holden aboard the VSP train for the purpose of taking him to Shreveport for safekeeping. Locals, this is a very common thing. When somebody would get in trouble, a black person would get in trouble or accused of something, there's no such thing as we're going to bring you down to the jail, because you were going to have a mob surrounding it, and in many cases, even the guard of the jail was his life was threatened. So let's keep on going. Take him to Shreveport for safekeeping. Local citizens, hearing of this, raced ahead of the train in automobiles, and reaching the next station, pulled the helpless Negro from the train, took him to a nearby tree, and riddled his bodies with bullets. The note sent to Miss Elliott was written in plain handwriting. Acquaintances of the Negro state that he had no education and could hardly write his name. Wow. All right, check this one out. Philadelphia Inquirer, January 3rd, 1916. Blacks lynched for remark which may have been hello. Hartwell, Georgia, January 2nd. 2 Negroes were lynched, and a Negro woman was badly beaten as a result of a remark to a white girl in Anderson County, South Carolina, according to the reports received here tonight. The 3 Negroes were riding in a buggy, and when they passed the girl, one of the men made a remark to the white girl, at which she took offense. She reported the encounter to a group of white men, who quickly caught up with the blacks, lynched the men, and beat the woman, and ordered her out of the state. Reports concerning the nature of the allegedly assaulting remark are conflicting. Officials of Georgia County say that one of the Negro men yelled out, "Hello, sweetheart." The Negro woman asserts that all they said was hello. This is why I read these stories. More stories need to come out. These are your ancestor stories. All right, this could be my last one. New York Herald, January 22nd, 1916. 5 lynched in Georgia. Sylvester, Georgia, Friday. The bullet-riddled bodies of 5 Negroes found hanging from a tree near Starkville, Georgia, today increased the total of Negroes lynched in that section to 14 within the last 5 weeks. 14 black people lynched within 5 weeks. The victims of the latest lynching were accused by a mob of having knowledge of the killing of Sheriff Moreland of Lee County. 4 of the victims were of one family: Felix Lake and his 3 sons, Frank, Dewar, and Major. The fifth victim was Rodius Seymour. This is the next part of that article. Atlanta Constitution, February 23rd, 1916. All 5 lynched Negroes were guiltless, says Keith. Tifton, Georgia, February 22nd. Jim Keith, sentenced to a life-term prison for complicity in the killing of Sheriff Moreland of Lee County, talked freely of the crime today as he was carried to Richmond County to begin serving his term. He declared that Rodius Seymour and Old Man Lake and his 3 sons, who were lynched last month for the sheriff's death, were entirely guiltless. This fact is now generally believed. While fleeing from the place where he shot Moreland, Keith said he stopped at the home of the Lakes because it was the first Negro house in reach. The old man was gone and did not get back until a few minutes before the posse came. Keith had no opportunity to tell him the trouble, and Old Man Lake did not know that Keith was wanted by the officers, Keith said. Keith was then acquitted by a jury. So none of them, even though this man said that he was the one that shot the sheriff, he was later acquitted. And so I guess a total of 5 innocent black people were lynched. All right, again, this is the book, 100 Years of Lynching by Ralph Ginsberg. I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not trying to provoke feelings. But again, like I said, spiritually, I believe it's part of our jobs to do our research on these and bring these stories out, because there's too many of them. There's way too many of them. There's other channels. I forgot what the channel was called, but they put up a lot. They're killing it with this. They put up a lot of individual stories from this book, other books, and they get a lot of views on them, and they get a lot of feedback on them as well. So find those. You can find these types of stories also on Reddit pages too. And this book is not that expensive. If you need any other suggestions on books like this, message me or jump in the comments and I'll tell you. But yeah, have a great day. Check out my YouTube, where I'm going to upload another video and more videos tomorrow.